Hey, I'm Gvido. Thank you for the introduction. And today my topic will be defining access roles to users. Well, a good way to define limit access to users in eazyBI is to just create multiple accounts and then you import different projects and different accounts. And that's a good way how to separate that. But for today's topic, I wanted to talk about how we can do it in one account. For that, we will have to use the data access roles. And from my experience, well, data access roles at the beginning is not really the most intuitive functionality. That's also shown other people, and during the years setting up the data access roles for multiple customers, I've developed a specific workflow and setup that I do pretty much for every customer, and I just wanted to share and go through the steps on how I set that up. Wait, give me a second. And so, to demonstrate this, we will use a use case with 4 different account user roles, and our first role will be a sales manager. Sales manager is responsible in the company for his sales team, so that the sales team reaches their targets, they're motivated, and well, they're doing working efficiently. So what this user needs to see, he needs to see the sales and targets for all of his employees or like his sales team. He needs to see activities, what kind of activities the user do, what kind of quotations they have created, and maybe also look at the sales orders from their employees. But he cannot have access to finances. We don't want him to see what kind of salaries does everyone get, what the company is earning and so much. And stock is not really relevant to him. His focus is more on motivating the team. So the next user role will be the salesperson. So he's the person who picks up the phone, calls up the customers, talks to them. He has his own sales target that he's trying to reach, right? So for him, it's important to see his targets and how is he doing in sales. He can overview his activities, look at his quotations, and what kind of sales orders are coming up, so that he knows what kind of sales will be. For the same thing, he cannot see finances and stock, but also, very importantly, he cannot see his other colleagues' targets and results, right? So that, he doesn't peek what they're doing, he is staying on his targets, he's not comparing, so he's playing the game where he's trying to be better to himself. The next role will be the inventory manager. So this person in the company is responsible for having items in stock available when they're sold. So we sell an item, if it's not in stock, then we can send it to our customer. So for him, the access should be to the stock information. He should be able to see sales orders, so he can predict how much stock will come out. And also, he showed interest in seeing sales reports. Right? We haven't fully implemented eazyBI here, we're still working here. So he said that he wants to look at sales reports so he can predict what do I need to order, look at the sales results. But we don't want him to see what kind of activities specific users are doing. Quotations are not really relevant, and finances, definitely, we don't want him to look at the company finances. And lastly, we have the financial director. He is the guy who can see the finances, and on top of that, he showed interest that he wants to make his own reports. He wants to play around eazyBI, see how it is. Maybe he's working out his account groups, so he also expressed interest in creating his own reports. But sales, activities, quotation, stock is not really relevant to him, so we don't want to give him access. So, keep it focused on the most important things. So, before we get into role specification, I would like to mention the general user roles and how they work. To demonstrate this, I have set up an account where I have two users. I have myself, and then I have another account. So this is my workflow and how I set up roles as well, because when I create the user roles, I want to make sure that they work correctly. And the best way to do that is not give to the user and ask, hey, did you see what you're supposed to see? Right? We have a separate account with the user, we give the access, and then we see if everything is correct. Right? So here on my second screen, with the black screen is the end user. Right? So when you see the black screen, dark theme, this is what the user will see. So if we go down the list of the normal roles, then the first role is the dashboard viewer. This user can access the dashboard section and he can see all of the available dashboards. So we have the company overview, profit and loss, salesperson dashboard, we have financial budgeting, target monitoring for salespeople, and then stock information. Right? Then if we go one role up to viewer, then a viewer can also see the dashboards, but he can also go to Analyze tab and walk through, see all the reports, see all the data cubes, and basically check out what's available with the cube. By the way, you can see that for this demonstration, I have different sets of data or different cubes. We have the CRM for activities, financials for financials, invoices, quotations, sales orders, and stock. And then we'll use those later as well. But this user can also create their own reports, but he cannot save anything. He can play around, but he cannot save anything. The next user role is a user. So this person can do everything the same, but he can also make and save their own reports. So I have my report, I can save it, and I can use it on my own. But this role cannot open other people's reports and then make changes to their reports and then overwrite them. So this is very nice if you want to have users in your account that work on their own, but they don't break anything existing or then change anything to existing reports. So that's a really nice role. All the next roles, we cannot limit access to dashboards or specific members anymore. Those are all admins, right? So we're not really interested in them too much today, but report admin can edit and update all the reports. Data admin can have access to this source data section, and the user admin can have access to this section we're looking at right now. Okay, so we went through the regular roles. Let's get to more detail on the specifying roles for our users. Step one in my workflow, which I recommend to use, by the way, is to define a general role for dashboard. The reason for this is that we want to first limit access to everything, so no one can see anything, and then once everything's limited, then we say you can do this, you can do that, and you can do that. So I will be doing this live demonstration, so bear with me if I miss something. So to define this, we need to go to data access role, define a new role, and then very simply type a name, and we have defined a new role. Now the second step we need to do, we need to go to the dashboard section and go to this lock here, and then put the role to all of the dashboards. So this will prevent anyone from seeing anything, or except admins, right? So anyone below admin role. So let's see how it looks like. So this is the end user. Now, that's completely normal. I was in Analyze section and I didn't have access to that. But now, since I go to the dashboard, I don't see anything, which is good. That's exactly what we wanted to see. Now, the next step is that we closed up everything. Now we give access to people. So let's start with the sales manager. So let's go to data access roles, define a new role. And instead of calling it sales manager, I will call it sales team. Might be a little odd, but you'll later see why. So I will save these changes, and as I go to the dashboard here and define roles, this group needs to see salesperson KPIs, and this group needs to see target monitoring. So this is for the sales team, so the sales manager can see how the salespeople are reaching their targets and how are they doing in sales. So once I save this, we need to test it out. So we'll go to our user and we'll give him the sales team role and save this, right? So let's see how that looks like. So now, as a sales manager, this person logs in, he can see the salesperson KPIs, so how are the sales in general doing, and he can see a list of all of the different users, how are they reaching their targets, and so on. And more specifically, he can also come here, switch between different users. He can click on Audrey, look at how Audrey is doing, and go through the list. Now, let's move on to the next role, which is the salesperson. So here we need to get a little bit more specific, because we want to make sure that the salesperson has access only to his own sales, to his own data. So to do that, let's go to data access roles and define a new role, and we will define this role at the beginning for Audrey, right? I will show only one person, but you would have to do this for each individual salesperson. And here, I need to say what kind of data cubes should he have access to. So we have sales orders, quotations, activities, and invoices. And more importantly, we need to select a dimension where we'll have a limitation, and we need to select what will this user have access to. In this case, we can select that this user will see data that has been created by Audrey, essentially himself. There are also options here to select multiple, just like normally, or do the opposite. You can say he does not have access to Audrey, but everything else, right? But we'll keep it simple. Select this one role for Audrey, and then save. So let's test out this role. We'll select Audrey, and you might be thinking, I'm missing something. I didn't add the dashboard one. I didn't add it to the dashboard, right? So, and you will be right, because now Audrey doesn't see anything. But this is where the other role comes in. Remember, I called it sales team. So now I don't need to go and put every salesperson in my dashboard, I've seen people actually do that, and it's very, very inefficient, where I need to refresh the page, where I've seen people come here and they list all of their 20 employees. Every time you create a new role, you go to dashboard, you put it in. Very inefficient, hard to manage. But here, we created one role, sales team, and we're just gonna use it for all the salespeople. So one role, we specify you have only access to that specific dimension member. Second one, you have access to this dashboard. So we have a combination of those two. I open up the dashboard. I have access to these dashboards, or Audrey has. And if Audrey comes and looks at the person, he can only see data about himself. Then we have the next one will be the inventory manager. So for him, we will go to data access roles and create a new role, inventory manager. And since he asked us to have access to looking at sales reports, we need to give him a little bit more access. He will be not only a dashboard viewer, he will be a viewer. So it's important here to limit access so he can access only specific data cubes, which were the sales orders, stock, and invoices. So let's save these changes. Go to the inventory manager here. Test out the role. And again, since he asked to look at the available reports, we will give him a viewer role. So this is what he sees. We are missing one thing. We want him to only see the stock turnover here. So we'll add inventory manager, and he's not a sales team because we don't really want him to look at the targets of salespeople or what they're selling. We want him to focus on the dashboard. So we say that this guy will be have access to inventory management. He's a viewer, and if you look at the dashboard, he can see the stock turnover, this specific dashboard, but the user also has access to the analyze section, and he has access to those 3 cubes where he can look at sales. So maybe he wants to sell sales increase dynamics. He's look at this. Maybe this helps with my stock predictions. Look at other reports, and then maybe we can have a sit down with him like 2 weeks later, and then pick what kind of numbers from sales would help him to order stock efficiently. And the last role that we have left is the financial director. For financial director, it's also quite straightforward. So we will be creating a new data role for him as well, financial director. And the financial director is not really interested in sales, he's not interested in stock, he just wants to work with his finances. So to make things easier for him, we'll give him access to finances. And very importantly, we'll select the financial director role here. And since he expressed some interest on making his own reports, playing around eazyBI, saving, making changes, we will give also him the user access role. This is financial director instead of inventory manager. And we also want to make sure that the financial director has access to his budget control and to his profit and loss financial dashboards. We save that, and let's look at the result. So here, the financial director, if we give him these roles, he will be able to log in, see his profit and loss. He will be able to see his budget control, and at the same time, he can go to his financial data cube, open this up, and play on the report, save his own reports, so because he wants to do stuff on his own, and he can have his little sandbox where he can play around his own data and own reports. As an honorable mentions, I wanted to mention 2 more cool things you can do with data access roles or limiting access with users. One cool approach is that you can use current user email. This is a little bit more advanced way of how to set up limited access, where you make a dashboard and you force a calculated member selection, where this calculated member looks at the user's email with this function right here, and then finds the user that has this email. So in that way, the calculated member automatically picks the user, and then the dashboard shows data for this. This is a little bit more tricky because you have to disable drills if you're using this functionality, because if someone is smart enough, they can click on drill across person or drill across assignee, and then it will ignore this calculation and see everything. Right? So that's a little bit more advanced. And the other honorable mention are folders. So you can put dashboards or reports in specific folders and then restrict access to these folders. So this will be nice if you, let's say, you have a folder that with the reports or dashboards that everyone could see, but then you have a folder that you lock or give some kind of access limits to, say that this folder is not accessible unless you have these specific data access roles. So there's multiple ways how to do it. I shared my best approach. And one more thing that probably good to mention is one downside of this functionality is that when you define the dashboard role for everything, when a user creates a new dashboard, he needs to remember to go limit access to that. I submitted a wish today to eazyBI to have a default access role or some kind of lock everything, but that is something to keep in mind when you make a new dashboard. Make sure you limit the access to this dashboard, or otherwise everyone can see it. Okay, thank you very much.
So do you have any questions to Gvido? Yeah, very shy and slow hand is coming up.
Gvido, from your experience, what are usually the reasons why customers decide to import all the information into one account instead of splitting into several?
Let me ask you this, why, in your experience, people separate in different accounts?
You can avoid setting up user roles, that access roles.
True.
And it's very like you forget something, and then with all those interactions, drilling and stuff and calculations, yeah.
Well, it's nice to have everything in one account because you can make reports about everything, right? So you want to see report about all the data together. Also, how we use eazyBI, we cannot really split the data up. Mm-hmm. And if we talk about business data, then you don't really usually split up invoices. Like if you have separate companies, then sure, you can create separate accounts. But if you have invoices coming from one company or financials coming from one company, there's no really point where you can split up or separate that. That then just kind of messes up the whole data results.
Okay, yeah, thank you.